Hi folks, Jennifer Nelson here with Pocket Hours. Pocket Hours is the only podcast made by realtors for realtors. Come listen as I interview high-producing brokers to hear their best practices. And don't forget that while you are listening, you are also earning clock hour credit. Tune in every other week to hear from someone new, and please remember to tell your broker friends about Pocket Hours so more folks can elevate their business. Be the agent you would hire. Looking forward to having you listen in. Hey folks, Jennifer Nelson here with Pocket Hours, and I have the privilege today of interviewing April Rausch. April and I have known each other for about 10 years. She's been in the business for, I believe she says, 22 years in this interview. What you're going to hear more than anything is a humble servant. Honestly, this person April goes at real estate from such a relational point of view. She's humble, she continues to learn, and one of her biggest messages is about showing up. Can't wait for you to hear from her today. April Rausch, I am so excited to have you on Pocket Hours today. Thank you so much for your time. I'm just excited to have a conversation with you.
Of course. Well, it's nice to see your face, even though it's virtual, but it's been a while since I've seen you IRL.
It's true. It's so true. I was just thinking as before this interview started that I think I've known you for about 10 years. I remember before I started the last company I was a part of that we went to some Mariners game with you, if I remember correctly. That's been a long time.
A memory popped up in my social media recently. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Too funny. Too funny. Well, I'm super glad that you've been here. And I want to just tell you a little bit about your stats before we jump into learning more about you. Probably numbers you don't know, but I got to look up. So this is kind of fun to tell you about your success, which is why I invited you. No, this is why I invited you on the show. So you have had 85 closed transactions in the last 5 years. And your average price point was around 900. And just in the last 3 years, it jumped up to over 900 in your average price point. And so you are a very steady Eddie and an even about 20 to 23 to 25 transactions a year over the last even 10 years. I look back 10 years. So this is exactly why I want to talk to you, because you are definitely a producer and you have been able to maintain that sort of productivity over a long period of time. You're not kind of a one-hit wonder who just came on the scene and is doing amazing, or somebody who's sort of been at one level and then jumps up one year and has this amazing year and then goes back down the next. You've been really, really consistent in your production. So I'm excited to talk to you about that. So congratulations, first of all.
That's great. Thank you. Well, and you definitely just told me stats that I had no idea. I probably haven't looked them up in 5+ years.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the producers I interview on this show are the same way. They're like, really? Well, that's amazing. Yay, good to know. Anyway, April, so tell us a little bit about who you are. Pets, kids, where you live.
I've been with Windermere for 26 years. Actually, I kind of joke that this is officially 2022. I have been with Windermere for half my life. So I started in my 20s.
Wow.
So 26 years ago. And I live in Olympic Manor, which is in North Ballard. Most people know it as one of the neighborhoods that you go to see holiday lights.
Yep.
It's super duper decked out.
Yep.
My house often looks like the weak link. I never quite pull it off, but I invite friends and clients over to come check out the lights in the neighborhood in general. So I've actually been in that house for, I think 27 years.
Wow.
So a long time. Bought the house in my 20s. Definitely could not afford to get into the neighborhood now, like a lot of our Seattle neighborhoods.
Real quick, what did you buy it for? I just have to know. 27 years ago.
Bought it for $275,000.
That's fantastic.
I had to convince my father, who was in real estate in Florida at the time, that that this would be a wise investment.
Okay.
So very concerned at that high price.
I'm sure it was really high, right? That's amazing. Okay, very good. And you have pets?
I've got 3 now young adult children. So have raised all 3 of the kids in that house. They're now 18, 19, and 21. And then I do have a large pet ranger. So he is a big, useless Labradoodle. So he's years old and he is basically a lap dog, a cat. So.
I love it. A useless Labradoodle. That's perfect. Oh, that's fantastic. And you started, so when you started, let's go back in time just a little bit because you were in your 20s. Good Lord, that's amazing. And you got into real estate. Where did you come from? Had you done something prior to real estate before starting in on this?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually went to school in Florida. I graduated from Florida State University through their College of Business, the hotel program. So straight out of college, I went to Boston to work for Ritz-Carlton Hotels, and I actually came out here to Seattle to work for Four Seasons.
Oh, wow.
They were managing the Olympic Hotel. So I followed my hotel path out here.
Uh-huh.
And then about 6 to 9 months into my gig here at the Olympic, I just decided that, that I wanted to try something different. And I wasn't quite sure what that was. So I thought, well, dad sold real estate after, retiring from the Navy. So maybe I'll get my license and just do that until I figure out what I really want to do.
Yeah. Oh
And
my
then
gosh.
lo and behold, it stuck.
Guess so. It really stuck. So take us back there for a minute. You're in your first couple years in real estate. What was that like?
It was different because I was brand new to the West Coast. I think I took a lot of my tools from hotel and restaurant management. I have to say that one of the first Windermere brokers that I took a class from was Rick Franz, and
Oh
he
yeah.
from hotel and restaurant also.
Yeah.
So I do think that, people from the hospitality industry are a really good fit for real estate because
Hmm.
we're already used to working evenings and weekends.
Right.
Now
Right.
I can, take holidays off. I used to work every Christmas and New Year's. So,
Yeah. Right.
but because I didn't know a lot of people, I basically built my business by sitting floor time. I don't think that even exists anymore. But I was out of the Queen Anne office. So it was actually pretty good floor time and
Yeah.
as many open houses as possible.
That's so good. Yeah, and for listeners, floor time, which does date both of us in our, I've been doing this 20 years too, and it's when you would sit at your office and be the point of contact for a potential seller or buyer who walked in the office. It was off the street kind of person who says, "Hey, we're looking for a realtor," and you're the one sitting behind the desk, so you're the lucky one to go on and vet them and see if you can help them. So it doesn't seem that that happens much anymore with our new technology and how referrals happen, but it did happen then. So yeah. And then your other comment about open houses, it one of the questions that I think is asked a lot on the show is how do I build my business if I'm new?
Yeah.
And that's been a recurring theme is to get out there, start to practice your skills, talking to people at open houses. And you saw that as a fruitful endeavor, obviously.
Absolutely. And I still, even at times when I feel a little bit slow or when I just want to, kind of entertain myself, I will go back out and, offer to do open houses even for other colleagues if I don't have an active listing myself. So I really enjoy meeting people, educating buyers. A lot of times they're coming through kind of wide-eyed and new to the market. Sometimes they're coming as a result of a real estate platform where they've seen a listing online and but it is a great opportunity and I tend to pick up at least one new client at most of my open houses.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I love the humility that you say when you're talking about this because you've been doing this a long time and you obviously have great success at it, but you're sort of let's get back to the fundamentals. Let's go back and hone my skills a little bit more. Let me go back and practice again being better at reading people and asking good questions. And that means going back to the fundamentals. That means going and doing an open house from time to time. So for anybody listening on the call that says, I'm at this certain plateau, go back to the beginning and do some of the things you did to get even where you are right now, right?
And I would say, even for myself, both professionally and personally for 2022, I made a goal to show up. Because I think coming out of COVID, we've all been sort of holed up in our own spaces for a long time. Sometimes I don't feel like going out in the evening for something I've been invited to. And yet I've discovered that if I will, put on real pants and pajama bottoms, if I just show up, it makes a huge difference, both
So true.
professionally and personally. And I think that even brokers' open houses are important to attend. We're feeling sort of disconnected. It's so good to get out and connect with our, with our colleagues out in the field. I glean something new from every time that I just show up for brokers' open houses.
Wow, that's fantastic. I love it. Yep, great message. So you're at it for, let's pretend a few years, 5 years, whatever. When did you start to say, oh, I think I'm going to make some money at this? I think that this is good for me. When did that happen for you?
I think I was so in the weeds with raising three small children that I don't think it even really occurred to me. Really, when it occurred to me was when the recession hit. My husband and I at the time decided that we would simplify our lives by moving down to Fox Island during the recession and kind of raise the kids, on island time and with a little bit of acreage around us. And it was really interesting. I thought that my business would slow down. So I thought that that made sense. And yet I found myself still driving up to Seattle, 4 or 5 days a week. So I think that's when I discovered I thought, wow, I guess I really can be successful in this business because what it comes down to, and I think we're beginning to see this right now in this current market, is that regardless of what the economy is doing, people move. So they're either upsizing or downsizing, they're having children, they're sending children out in the world, getting married, getting divorced, taking a new job, losing a job. And so, life moves on and it doesn't wait for the perfect, economic housing market moment. And that was really an eye opener for me during the recession.
Absolutely. And I remember somebody saying to me once when I first started real estate that when's the best time to sell your house is when you need to sell your house, right?
Yeah.
Like this isn't an investment property for most people. Whereas investors have the luxury of saying, let's watch the market and try to time it correctly. This is where you live, and something's changing in your life that makes you want to not live in that house anymore. And that's sort of independent of what's happening in the market, right? You want to move, you want to change. So, yeah, that's a great point. And Seattle's been so insulated for the most part from a lot of these changes that we've seen across the country. So, and even looking at your stats, I mean, you hardly felt the bump even during COVID and even during, right? You've just been sort of this, yep, this is how many houses I sell every year. You found the business and it's come to you. When do you think it switched over into a referral business for you?
I would say for me, it probably switched over around 5 to 7 years, and it's kind of hard to reflect back. It's all such a blur. I did do quite a bit of work. Oh, I forgot to mention this. In my early years, I did do some work with relocation companies.
Mm.
So, and that really helped too. Relocation companies, and honestly, now I haven't done it for a while, so I don't know how it works. But back in the day, they took a big chunk of the commission. And yet, some of the folks that I met have become dear friends and some of my greatest referral sources. So I sort of looked at some of those opportunities as kind of, the sure you take a hit on that first relocation referral, but if you love the people and make that connection, then it translates into more transactions down the road.
For the listeners, relocation companies essentially offer the people that they're relocating. I'm going to put big air quotes where you can't see it on the recording. This great deal, right, to their employees to say, we'll pay for your move and we'll pay for this. And they're actually not paying anything. They're just taking part of our commission to offer this to their to their employees. But it's true. It's 30, sometimes upwards of 40, sometimes 50% of your commission goes back to this reload company. But again, if you're not picking up on what I'm picking up on, you're hearing somebody who's saying every opportunity is an opportunity for you to learn and grow. And while you might have to give up 40% of your commission now, if that turns into 3 or 4 or 7 transactions later, then it for sure has made up for itself. So don't miss an opportunity just because you're snooty enough to think that that's too much money to give away, right? When you can learn something from it. That's great. What weird thing or funny thing? I mean, I'm sure you've seen a lot. You've been around a long time. But off the top of your head, what's something strange that you've encountered in our industry? Anything come to mind for you?
I had a listing many years ago, I'll just say that, where the photographer was going to go in on their own because it was vacant and staged. But the sellers had just moved out and some of their personal things were still in some of the closets. And my client called me up and said, oh my God, we forgot something in the closet in the primary bedroom.
Oh no.
even though the photographer won't photograph the inside of the closet, if they happen to open it, it would be real embarrassing. So it's something that adults have some fun with. But if you could go and maybe, collect that and put it somewhere, that it definitely wouldn't be found because my sellers were out of town that weekend. And, it was funny because I was giggling the whole way through the house going to search for this item. But it was really nice because I thought, here are clients who trust me. They know that there is no judgment whatsoever.
Sure.
It tickled me that they were okay with me going and taking care of that.
That's so funny. I love it. And true to form that they were like, "Hey, we know you can handle this, but let's not put the photographer through it. Let's go ahead and remove that embarrassment." Hilarious. I love it. Coincidentally, I was helping a buyer buy a house and it was over on the east side. My inspector that I've used for years said to me, "Hey, Jennifer, come over here." And he had just gone in the attic above the garage. And in that attic, what he found in the very back corner was a chair and a table and a lamp and then a bunch of J.C. Penney's lingerie magazines from like the 1940s. And it was just, it was actually almost precious. Like it was that moment where you're like, oh, well, if that's your porn, well, congratulations, right? I mean, these are fully clothed, the most clothed women you've seen in a long time. Really, pretty cute. So we actually got a chuckle out of it and got to tell my client about it, who also enjoyed it. She said, "Leave it there. I think it's too good to take away."
That's awesome.
Yeah. So if you were transitioning now, if you were to say to a broker who has been doing this for 5, 7, 10 years and says, "April, I can't get above this particular, I'm plateauing. And I want to know if there's something I can do differently to increase my income and have more referral, whatever it is, change my business plan." What would you say to that person?
I think that my best approach, and I think that the way to get through it is to not focus so much on the sales and remember that this really is a relationship business.
Yeah.
And maybe take the opportunity to, I invite clients to go for clients turned friends, and both to go for Wednesday walks with me around Green Lake. And I think just get really back to the basics and reconnect with your people.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes we get too focused on the numbers, get too focused on the transactions, and we forget that, we are not in the sales industry, I don't think. I believe we're in
Yeah.
the service industry and we're in the people business. And so I just think getting back to being, remembering that we are advocates, we're not salespeople, and enjoy the time with your clients and your friends. And I just think that going about it in a more organic way is the way to go.
For sure.
I know that you see I'm on social media quite a bit. I live out loud.
Yeah.
And, years ago, probably 5, 6 years ago, there was this sort of wisdom in the real estate industry that you should have, a professional Facebook page. And I found that for me, it was too difficult to keep up with the professional and the personal. And what I discovered was that, on my personal, it's 90% about me, my kids, my crazy life, but it's 10% every once in a while I will put something in there real estate wise.
Yeah.
And that's when I do get phone calls from clients and friends because they just like to be kept up on on what's going on in the market
For sure.
without it being too don't blast it out there all the time.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Pocket Hours is brought to you by Scout Real Estate. Hi, I'm Jennifer Nelson, owner at Scout Real Estate. I started this firm with the vision of doing things differently, with our focus on legendary service for our clients and creating a community of producing agents to spur each other to do higher quality work. If you are interested in learning more about how a small group of like-minded brokers have come together to have some fun while doing a lot of business, reach out to me, 206-227-7966, or email jennifer@scoutrealestate.com. I promise you this, fun is a high priority for me, but so is winning. So if you appreciate those two things, you might be interested in Scout. Looking forward to hearing from you. I'm a licensed teacher for Scout School, which is my new real estate company, Scout. And we have a school, and one of the classes we're teaching next year is about social media. And one of the biggest things that this social media expert that I'm bringing in is saying to realtors is stop making it about you.
Yeah.
Me. Look at all my sales. Look at my new listing. Look at me. Instead of about saying, I worked with these lovely clients. Here's something about them. This is the relationship we created. And oh, by the way, here's the house they bought, right?
Yeah.
Instead of look at I'm the top salesperson in blah 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 county and who cares, like they don't care. So what they care more about is that you advocated for people and that people continue to choose you as their realtor and refer you, right? So that's
Right.
great
Be a,
advice.
yeah, be a storyteller and share people's joys.
Yeah, for sure. The money always comes when you do that, right? Like you said, we're in the service industry, we're not in the sales industry. I often say to my buyers and sellers, I don't care what house you buy. I don't actually care. I will help you decide if that's a good house for lots of reasons, but I don't care if it's here or there. What I care about is that you buy a good house, and the relationship that we build. And so I think it takes away some of the pressure of me saying, "Well, I really hope you buy this house because then I get a paycheck." Well, who cares about that, right? If I wreck the relationship in the meantime, that's pretty short sighted. Shooting myself in the foot about having any kind of referral. So that's great. Tell us something that is hard for you in real estate. What's something that's hard?
I was being very candid with a colleague of mine this past weekend. I helped her do an open house at a condo building downtown, and did it as a favor because, again, I think that sometimes we can glean good information from our colleagues and, have a good conversation. But I confessed to her that, through COVID, I developed some real anxiety around contract writing. I think that sometimes newer agents don't know what they don't know and don't realize that, I mean, there is a lot that we are responsible for in these contracts. And it is, I just think that we have to be really, really careful. I mean, I know that we all carry, errors and omissions insurance,
Right.
but I had a situation a few years ago that was, no fault of mine at all, but it was kind of conditions of COVID that delayed a closing, and so super anxious buyers and equally anxious sellers and attorneys started getting involved. It all resolved before anything really had to go down. But it was amazing how that really it really stuck with me. I think because I'm from the hospitality background, I still love for everybody to feel good at the end. And it felt very out of my control that I couldn't make everybody happy in that situation. So, of course, my representation was to the buyer. And so I had to dig in on that end. Even though in that moment, I wondered if my buyers felt really good about how everything ended up, they have turned out to be one of my greatest referral sources the past couple of years. So they moved out here to work at one of our awesome universities in town, and they've continued to refer new faculty to me, which has been great.
That's awesome. Yeah. And like you said, I mean, it's so there's points in our career, I think, when we encounter a situation where we really can't affect change. And it's so hard to watch people struggle. It's already an anxious time, I think. Buying and selling brings out sometimes a lot of tension for people and stress. And so you're trying to walk with them, not take things personally, right? And be the best advocate you can to get them to the finish line. And when you're able to do that, which it sounds like you did, then they say, "Wow, that was a great experience, and it could have gone many other ways." Right? You could have gotten defensive. You could have told them not to get, an attorney. You could have done a lot of things that would have showcased your insecurity about your work, but instead you showcased how confident you were about the advocacy you were providing and said, let's all walk with you until we get to the end." So that's awesome. Talk to me a little bit about this current market. Oh my. We're at 7% interest rate. By the way, folks, for those of you listening, in coming years, you're going to go, what? Or either it's 10% or it's 2%. We don't know which way it will go, but we are at a record high interest rate that we've had in a very long time. It's more than doubled since the beginning of 1 year. So it's also record breaking in terms of how fast it's gone up. What do you see about the market right now?
So I really see that my first time home buyers in kind of the entry price point in Seattle, and it is horrifying for anybody listening in other parts of the country to say that our entry point is, between seven and $800,000. But of course, for every 1% that an interest rate goes up, it decreases a buyer's purchase power by 10%. So I had a client earlier this summer who was qualified for 700,000, and now that same monthly payment will only qualify them for 630,000. And you can't buy anything in Seattle for that. They need, well, you could buy a condo, but they need a single family home for their toys and mini RV and that type of thing. I have really seen my first time buyers kind of hit the sidelines for now. Um, the sales that I've had over the past couple months have been mostly people who are doing either move up or move down, people who have maybe decent stock portfolios but have decided they need to diversify because, of course, the stock market has lost a lot of value.
Yeah.
So I've had some folks pull money out of the stock market to buy investment properties. So I would say that, the majority of my clients the past few months have been sort of that million to 1.6-ish range, kind of that
Okay.
mid range.
Yeah, for sure. And for those of you that didn't catch it or get out your pencil, I'm going to repeat something that's really important that she just said. For every 1% the interest rate goes up, it reduces the buying power by 10%. That's such an important thing to know. If you do know that and you're talking to buyers, that shows your confidence and your competence, I guess, and also lets them say, well, shoot, since we've been approved, it's gone up another 0.5%. Now let's change our buying or search parameters, right, to accommodate that sort of difference. So yeah, for sure. It has changed the buying power considerably. Where do you see this market going in the next 12 months?
I'm sad to say that I think we're going to see home values go down. I mean, I don't know how much, but if buyers are not able to purchase what they need at these higher interest rates, I think that we're going to see home values come down. I don't think dramatically in Seattle, and perhaps I'm wearing rose-tinted glasses, but I do think that we're a little bit insulated. I mean, think about even during COVID,
Right.
the industries that boomed during COVID
Yeah.
are largely based here. Amazon and online shopping and, medical research and technologies. So we have a lot of industries here that will insulate us a little bit.
Hmm.
But again, on a national level, we can't control the interest rates. I do think also that kind of circling back to what I see out there in the market, I don't like seeing that some sellers are sort of chasing the market down by doing price reductions. And honestly, I don't think that reducing price on a house by $50,000 is going to specifically make a difference. I really like when sellers and agents are seeing the opportunity to offer a seller what contributed interest rate buy down. I think that
Hmm.
that is the better way to go. If a seller were to contribute, say, $25,000 toward a buyer buying down their interest rate, that's going to be more impactful than the price reduction, I
I
believe.
love it. I love it. That's super smart. And yeah, it is interesting to watch these sellers at the advice of their agent, at their broker, saying, "Well, we need to just, no, we're not getting any bites, so let's drop it 15,000." And then a month later, well, let's drop it another 10,000, and none of it's making a difference because the interest rate remains the same. So it's not a big enough dent for that. So I love this idea of just let me buy down your rate to a place where it seems like even 2 months ago you could have got it for this. So let's go ahead and get you there, and then you can buy this house at this amount. Good advice. So, last question: is there anything else you think would be important for brokers listening about April Roush to know that would kind of send them in a new direction in their company or a new direction in real estating? Anything at all?
I mean, I think that this is possibly reflective of my age and stage in life. Once I hit 50 a couple of years ago, it took me again because of my hospitality background. I'm a yes woman. I try to please people, and it took me a long, long time to set boundaries. And I know that that's something that a lot of folks are talking about these days, but I can't emphasize that enough. And it really does help in your business because it sets the tone for your clients to know and understand that you have a life too. And I think that sometimes people look at our work as being quote unquote flexible, and it's really just unpredictable. And so it took me years, but I finally would meet with new buyers and say, hey, listen, I'm available to you Sunday through Friday. Saturday is my sacred day off with my family.
Nice.
And then they would say, oh, but you're available to work 6 days a week. And in the back of my head, I'm thinking, well, I really hope not. But, but theoretically, yes. And then, it got to a point where even buyers, maybe we would end up scheduling an inspection for a Saturday morning and they would say, oh my gosh, but that's your day off. And, but I'm always willing to make exceptions. Of course, I'm not going to do anything that's going to get in the way of somebody's progress in their purchase. But I do think setting boundaries, and again, that might not sound like professional advice for accelerating or advancing your business, but I do think that sometimes consumers and buyers and sellers don't necessarily look at us as, the professionals that, I mean, we should be looked at as an attorney or a doctor or CPA, and we're advisors, and we need to put ourselves out there in that same manner.
Agreed. And I can't, I guess, emphasize enough that I think that's incredibly good professional advice. And that what I've seen in other brokers and myself included is to say, when you set up that boundary, what ends up happening is that people respect it and they respect you more as a result of it. So I actually think it increases your business to show that you're a well-rounded person and that you take time for yourself. The agent or the broker that works all the time is not any fun for anyone because they're stressed out and their hair's on fire and they're just go, 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 right? And I guess also I'm in my 50s too. So looking back, I don't want to say, I missed time with my kids or I missed this important game or I did something that because I might have gotten a sale, like that feels like such a horrible trade for what you're going to get, right? And there are other people in the industry that can help you at your office or relationships that you've built in moments when you say, I need a break. I need this day off. My buyers need to go out. Can you show them these 3 houses or whatever? So take that time. I love that advice. Really good advice.
Yeah. And actually, I think that is one thing to embrace about this new market,
Mm-hmm.
because I definitely work with a lot of younger, newer agents around me. And, I did miss a lot of those really important years. I mean, the market was bananas between 2005 and 2007. And that was when my kids were, 3 to 5 years old. And I missed so much. And I have such big regrets about that. And again, I can't go back and change the past. But I do want to let younger agents know that, embrace this moment. We are probably at one of the most balanced, actually the most balanced market, I'm air quoting here, that I have seen in my 26 years. And so, don't give up that time with your friends and family because it will come back around.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to focus on the people around us, both our friends, family, and clients, and ride it out.
Absolutely. April, this has been super fun and so many gems. Really, really awesome to talk to you and hear from you and to connect with you. I didn't know a lot of this. I've known you for 10 years, but I was like, no way, that's new information for me too. So I love it. So thank you for your time. I know that you're busy and I know that you're boundaried. And so I appreciate that I got on the inside of the boundary to have you on the show. So thank you.
Well, thanks for inviting me. This has actually been fun. I was pretty anxious about it, but you made it easy. So thank you.
Right on. Thank you so much for listening into Pocket Hours. I hope this has been interesting, fun, made you laugh, made you think, spurred you on to do and implement some new things in your business. I appreciate your time and hope this has been a good use of it, period. Now, go be the agent you would hire.